Hello, everyone. We are Group 5, Vaccination Status, and the question we're looking to explore is what are the factors that affect vaccine rollout in the US and internationally?
I'll be exploring what factors affect vaccine rollout on the state level. I'll be looking at the effects of income per capita, political party, and population on a state's vaccine rollout. I chose three metrics by which to evaluate state level vaccine distribution: the percentage of people fully vaccinated, the share of available doses used, and the daily vaccinations per million people. I started by creating histograms to view the distribution of each metric across states. Then I created charts to determine the top three and bottom three states in each metric, as shown here. Next, I plotted each metric against the three variables, starting with income per capita. I found that income had a moderate positive correlations with metrics 1 and 2 and a strong positive correlation with metric 3. Comparing by party, states with Democratic governors performed better across all three metrics, with higher means and medians, and plotting the time series data confirms the disparity. Finally, population was shown to have a weak relationship to all three metrics, as shown by the low correlation coefficients. These lead me to conclude that the most important indicators of a state's vaccine rollout success are its income per capita and its governor's political affiliation, with population having a weaker effect than initially expected.
Next, I'm going to be analyzing how vaccine rollouts differ by country and what factors play a role in this. I'll be exploring the effects of a country's median age, human development index, and life expectancy on its vaccine rollout using three metrics. The first metric, daily vaccinations per 1 million people, has the following distribution. The second metric is the number of people with at least one dose of the vaccine per 100 people. The third metric is the total number of doses administered per 100 people. I then plotted the three metrics against each variable and solved for the correlation coefficients. Median age yielded a weak to moderate correlation with daily vaccinations, a moderate correlation with number of people with at least one dose, and a weak correlation with total doses administered. Human Development Index, which measures education, health, and standard of living, yielded a moderate correlation with daily vaccinations, a strong correlation with number of people with at least one dose, and a moderate to strong correlation with total doses administered. Life expectancy illustrated a moderate correlation with daily vaccinations, a moderate to strong correlation with number of people with at least one dose, and a moderate correlation with total doses administered. This led me to conclude that out of the variables I analyzed, the most important factor for the success of a country's vaccine rollout are its Human Development Index and life expectancy, with little to no relationship found with median age.
The next question that our group analyzed was how certain demographics and wealth are impacting vaccinations to the individuals within the US. In order to analyze this question, we used 7 different data sets and a variety of relevant variables. For our age analysis, we found that the percent of individuals who received one or both doses of the vaccine varies greatly by age group. Those who are 65 and older have received a much greater portion of the vaccine than the younger age groups. For our ethnicity analysis, we found that over time, the white and Asian populations have received a much greater portion of the vaccine than the Black and Hispanic populations. Lastly, for our income analysis, we graphed vaccinations per capita versus income per capita for each California county and found a strong positive correlation coefficient. This means that those living in wealthier regions have had a much easier time receiving a vaccination than those living in low-income areas.
In this portion of the presentation, we will be looking at what the distribution of different vaccines are in vaccine rollouts worldwide and how we can effectively model vaccine rollout. So looking at the distribution visualizations here, we can see that the United States has vaccinated the most total people, vaccinating primarily with Pfizer and Moderna. Chile has vaccinated a decent amount of people with Sinovac, and the EU countries vaccinated primarily with Pfizer due to delays in releasing the AstraZeneca vaccine. Furthermore, with the proportion of the country vaccinated over time stratified by vaccine type, we can see that Chile has vaccinated a large amount of their population so far with Sinovac, the US with Pfizer and Moderna, and European countries are slightly behind, mainly only using Pfizer for the time being. In modeling future rollout, this is where this presentation differs from past, as we use slope dummy variables to attempt to model when different countries will reach 70% herd immunity to be able to start to reopen. In the United States, we predicted that this would be around August 15th, slightly off of the New York Times prediction of August 7th.
Our final question that we answered was how does GDP affect vaccine rollout? And we highlighted countries that were part of COVAX, which was an initiative in which higher income countries helped bring vaccines to more vulnerable lower and lower middle income countries. We start with a graph which compares the date the country began giving vaccines to the log of the GDP. And as you can see, higher GDP countries did start giving vaccines earlier, and countries that were part of COVAX got the vaccine almost a month after the majority of higher GDP countries. This graph shows a positive correlation between the GDP and the maximum number of daily vaccinations given in a country normalized by population. You can see that COVAX countries break the general trend a little bit, suggesting that the initiative was somewhat successful in increasing the number of vaccinations that these countries were able to give out. Finally, we have daily progression of people fully vaccinated in each country. You can see that higher GDP countries on the left and lower GDP countries on the right have very similar trends, except there is a larger cluster of countries with little progression amongst countries on the right with a lower GDP.